Hey everyone, I'm back home in Albuquerque. It's so great to be back. Louisville was good, but it was a long time to be gone and working. So glad to be back. I'm only here for another couple of days before we go on our cruise. So please remember that I will be offline, out of touch between the 15th and the 24th. After that, I will be catching up with questions, with feedback, and scoring, and all of those things. And so, if you have questions while I'm gone, don't hesitate to email them to me. Just know that I won't be catching up with those until I get back. You'll notice the timeline here behind me. I wanted to say a couple of things about that before I take off. First of all, pat yourselves on the back. We're doing a very good job with the timeline thus far. It's looking great, and I think there are a lot of interesting connections you'll be able to make to one another's posts. Do remember that the ID step for the timeline for each unit is due on the second Wednesday of that unit. And then the connection step is due on the second Sunday or the last day of the unit. So that means that the ID step was due yesterday, today's Thursday, and the connection step will be due Sunday. I did realize that I failed to put those due dates in Blackboard somehow. However, I mean they're written down in terms of if you look at the learning module and the checklist and that sort of thing. But the submission area doesn't actually have due dates for these. At least that's what I noticed when I went in there today. So I will be fixing that. And if you overlooked this one for that reason or any other reason, just submit your work as soon as you can, and you can earn points for that. Let's see. So I did want to point out a few things about the timeline um, as we go forward. With Unit 2 specifically, I always give you the opportunity to revise and resubmit to earn up to full credit, especially because I know this is a new assignment for all of us. We're all new to Tiki-Taki. We're new to what the kinds of expectations for this assignment are, and we can work out some of the bugs in terms of how to post to our timeline together. So you can revise and resubmit for up to full credit for this unit. And I did leave notes to that effect in the feedback that I left you all in Blackboard, those of you who have submitted thus far. Again, if you haven't submitted yet, please do as soon as you can. Um, the biggest thing to keep in mind with the timeline posts, with the ID step in particular, is the connection to the guiding question for the unit. So that is the place where you will kind of use your voice to explain why the person, place, event, theme that you chose is important, and how that topic will help us to answer the question that we're looking at for the unit. So please always remind yourself of what the guiding question is by going to the syllabus. The first sections of the learning module, they always contain that guiding question so that you can kind of refresh your memory and think in terms of how you will make that connection. In other words, that part of the assignment requires you to do some analysis. The rest of the assignment, you're not completely summarizing, but you're giving us a bit of a summary of the who, what, where, when of your topic. It might not be a who, but you know what I mean. You're explaining what this was and what the details are about it. So, for example, I'm just going to move the timeline behind me here. So Perla, for example, for Father Hidalgo, was writing about his biography, his background, where he came from, the kind of biographical information we need to know to understand him, as well as a little bit about his social context, about the fact that he was a priest and that he led an uprising for independence that encompassed mainly the lower classes in kind of north central, well, not north central, but central Mexico, north of Mexico City. And so that's the part where you're kind of doing a little bit of summary, and then you need to explain again why your topic is significant to help us understand our question. So how, for example, does someone like Father Hidalgo help us to understand the continuities and changes between the colonial era and the independence era in Latin America? And be as specific as you can in explaining that. Hopefully that's helpful and makes sense. If you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm going to, if it works, shrink my head down a little bit here and show you some things on the timeline. In my feedback to a few of you, I promised, get myself out of the way, I promised that I would show you how to add embed a link to your outside source, and also how you embed the images. So if you've done everything correctly, your entries will look like Ashton's or Anastasia's or Perla's. You'll see the topic, a date range, the image or video that you've chosen as a thumbnail, your name, and then this little more arrow. So I'm going to click this one. When you do that, this is what you see in terms of the text of your entry. So this is the stuff that you wrote into your Word document and that you've pasted into the timeline. If you've embedded the link to your outside source, you'll see a little button down here. And so that's what I want to show you how to do now. I'm actually going to scooch this over just a little bit and look at the entry on Father Morelos by Alexis. She's done a good job of giving us Father Morelos' background, but you'll notice there's not an image yet and there's not an embedded link. So those are the things that I want to show you real quick. To do that, of course, you work with this admin button. So since this is, you'll be going back to a post you've already created, you won't click create new story. That's just to get started and do the first part. But when you're going back to make revisions, you'll go find yours. So there it is, Father Morelos. And you'll use this box down here to add a link. That's a link from another class that I was working with. So I've pulled up the link that she used in the submission that she made to Blackboard. That's something else to remember. Make sure that you submit your Word document that you were working on to Blackboard in addition to the submission that you make on the course timeline. So I use the Blackboard submissions to go in and find your work on Tiki-Taki and to make sure that if for some reason you forgot to embed your outside link or your outside source, I should say, or just whatever may have happened, I can help you troubleshoot. So again, she used this one. So I'm just going to copy the URL from the browser bar there, Control C, go back in the other tab to the timeline, and in that link box, I'm going to Control V, and I'm going to click Save. Please click Save early and often with Tiki-Taki. Also, another reason that I ask you to do your work in a Word document or similar is that you might lose stuff if you try to just do it straight into Tiki-Taki. So to avoid frustration, make sure you can get everything done and then just come and put it into Tiki-Taki. That seems to be the best way. Okay, so I've just added this link. You notice this button that says Find Out More has appeared. We click it. It opens that same source in a new tab. I had scrolled down to the bottom, so it didn't look the same, but well, there we are. So that should look familiar from what we were just seeing on the other page. All right, so that's how you embed your source if I ask you to do that or tell you you need to do that. And please note, you do lose some points if you have not embedded your source here, simply because you get points for finding an outside source that is credible and relevant, and also for posting it. For those two reasons, you lose a few points if you haven't posted it here so that others can find it. I am going to revert this to the way it was, though, so that Alexis will have the chance to come and make any changes that she might want to do. And also, please note, I'm not meaning to pick on anybody. There are things that everybody will need to look at and possibly revise. For the media section, you can choose either an image or a video. I know that Alexis found an awesome image of Father Morelos. I've pulled it up in a Google search, a Google image search, I should say. So I just did images.google.com. You can put in Jose Maria Morelos, and see what you find. I know that she chose this particular image here. In order to get your image to display correctly, you need to make sure that you're not trying to copy the URL up here in the browser bar, but instead that you put your cursor directly, well, first you click on the image you want. So you choose that one, and then it opens it a little bit larger. Put your cursor right on the image, and right click, or control click if you're on a Mac. If you're using a Mac and you're using Chrome, you'll see a menu like mine. If you're using a PC and a different browser, your menu might look a little different, but you should have an option that means something similar to copy image address. So what you want to do is click the one that will get you the address or the URL for the image itself. So I'm going to click that. That is now copied. I'm going to go back to the timeline in the other tab. I'm going to go to the media section and click Add New Media. Then in Source, I'm going to Control V and paste in that URL that I just found. This is an image, so I don't have to change anything in the type. You can add a caption if you want to, but you're not required to. Click Save, and there's our image. If you have a video, I'll use a different example for the video. So let me revert this. Let's just hit delete here. Yes, okay. So I'll revert that to what it was. And then I wanted to find, I think it was this one, yeah. So Mestizaje. I noticed that Nick has his video URL here, but he just didn't embed it yet. So we're going to go and do that so that you can see how to do a video. So I'm going to find the Mestizaje entry, click into it, go to Media, Add New Media, and then you paste the URL into the same box, the source box, but you can't leave this as image. If you do, it won't display correctly. So you click on the drop-down menu, choose video. You can choose a thumbnail and a caption, but you don't have to. Click Save, and there's the video. So you click on it, and it will open up a little bit bigger and play the video for you on the timeline. So those are some of those technical things that will help you out to work with some of the feedback that I've given you. Remember, you can make any and all revisions that you want to your timeline entries for Unit 2. Note that the connection step is coming up Sunday, as is the journal entry. So if you have any questions about those things, please don't hesitate to ask. More than happy to help out, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of your different entries.